Recently, a terrorist organization in Egypt called Ansar Beit al-Maqdis, or ABM, reportedly swore allegiance to ISIS in a recorded message released on Twitter. This was the same group that previously refuted any ISIS connection, also on Twitter. So what happened? Are terrorist groups really joining ISIS? Well, last June, the leader of ISIS called on all Muslims to join ISIS in their jihad against the West. At the time, there was some concern that other extremist terrorist groups would heed the call, but few of them have actually done so. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, or AQAP, which is considered one of the more serious and deadly terrorist groups around, announced their support for ISIS, saying they're in solidarity with our Muslim brothers in Iraq against the crusade. But they didn't offer any sort of financial support or allegiance to ISIS. They basically just said, "Good job." The Islamic movement of Uzbekistan also publicly stated support for ISIS, but it too was nothing more than a glorified attaboy. Ansar al-Sharia, the same group blamed for the 2012 attack on the US embassy in Benghazi, also showed their support for ISIS. One of their factions in Libya paraded down the streets waving ISIS flags. A different faction based in Tunisia may have actually visited ISIS in Syria and offered allegiance, but even this group hasn't officially joined forces with ISIS. There hasn't even been so much as a Twitter announcement. So none of the major players have joined ISIS, but there are a few smaller terrorist groups that are actively supporting them in some pretty terrible ways. The Algerian terrorist group Jund al-Khilafa captured and beheaded a French mountaineer in retaliation to the French government's airstrikes on ISIS. The Indian terrorist group Ansar al-Tawhid has reportedly ordered their members to kill citizens of any nation currently fighting against ISIS, although nothing has come of it yet. And a terrorist group in the Philippines called Abu Sayyaf kidnapped 2 German tourists in the name of ISIS, but they may not actually be ISIS affiliated. More on that later. So where do we stand now? Well, all of these terrorist groups have their own agendas and targets. Whether or not they're part of ISIS doesn't change who their targets are or what their goals are. It doesn't even change the urgency with which they commit terrorist acts. Including ISIS in the conversation or claiming allegiance with them just gets them a little bit more press and possibly a bit more leverage. According to some experts, Abu Sayyaf, the Filipino group we mentioned earlier, may have stated allegiance to ISIS because people are willing to pay more for hostages held by ISIS than they are for hostages held by an obscure Filipino terrorist group. If you found this information relevant, then please subscribe, and remember, we upload new videos 6 days a week, and subscribing is the best way to make sure you see them all.